Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Kuntz, CEO of Mammoth Growth, and I have here today with me Francis Barrow of Madkudu. He's the co-founder and chief revenue officer. Thanks for coming.
Hey Ryan, thanks for having me.
So first of all, what is a kudu?
So funny story, when we started the company was my two co-founders, data scientists, so data enthusiasts. After a couple hours of brainstorming to find a name and not getting really anywhere, we decided to go and scrape Wikipedia for a list of adjectives, list of nouns, and build an algorithm that would optimize for price of SEO, domain availability, and the price of the .com website. And Madkudu came out number one. Number two was HipJ, which is incredibly hard for French people to pronounce.
It's hard
because
for me
of
to
the
pronounce.
H. Yeah. So Madkudu had to be it.
Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit about Madkudu. You guys are in lead scoring.
Yeah, we're a predictive analytics platform. Started building the product essentially for B2B SaaS companies, where what we really want to do is to help people rethink about the customer journey and how to optimize that customer journey based on who the customer is and what they're looking for, and basically having a sales process adapt to them rather than have the customer have to adapt to the sales process of a company.
We at Mammoth Growth, we think about it as people say we need lead scoring, and we have the idea that you can do it one way, which is sort of the old way, which is taking a feedback loop from your sales team to the marketing team, adjusting, getting that feedback loop again, and going through a process where basically, at the end of the day, you hopefully have better leads. Yours is using AI. So what does that mean?
That's a good question. The first thing is that we get blamed if it doesn't work and not the internal team. But more seriously, I think the big difference is that the typical lead scoring models, if you think of like Marketo, HubSpot, Eloqua, a lot of that is based on preconceptions, so what people believe a good lead to look like. And that's really dangerous in a sense because it's not data driven. Again, it's preconceptions. People have a hard time thinking about statistics and probabilities. It's a pretty well-known fact that humans are not able to understand what a probability is. So they think of isolated examples and that becomes the rule. What we do is we actually look at statistically what are the patterns that can be identified to find what a good lead looks like and how does it compare to a not so good lead. So the AI component there is really about training the algorithm to learn to identify the good leads in the pack.
When you mentioned Marketo and HubSpot, do you work in conjunction with Marketo and HubSpot, or are you something that would just supplant that?
So we work on top of they're usually great marketing automation software, and we're not planning to go in that space. The way we really look at the kind of MarTech space is that there's systems of record. So it's going to be like a Salesforce on the CRM side, or Pipedrive, or one of the other ones. HubSpot, Marketo, Eloqua as marketing automation. Then you have your in-house database. You have tools like Segment, Mixpanel for analytics. Then at the very top, you're going to have your systems of engagement. Again, like a Marketo to send emails or a Customer IO to send emails. Ring Central to call. And then the part where we fit is in the middle as the system of intelligence, where we ingest all of the data from the systems of record, build predictions to figure out what is the right system of engagement to use, why and when for which customer. So it's really building that connection in a seamless manner between all the data that's available and all the execution channels.
Oh, that's great. So you plug into a variety of tools in a way that allows them to do their jobs better.
Exactly. Again, with the idea being, if we were to create the optimal sales journey for each and every customer, what would it look like? And for that, we need to be able to connect to every single piece of information we have about that customer and be able to push every single execution channel.
So do you have a best integration, or is there a best stack, or some way to think about where to plug Madkudu in the most effectively?
I think definitely on the CRM side, looking at Salesforce is probably one that has the most flexibility.
Well, it has the most customers.
Right, also, which is kind of one of the reasons why we started building that integration, because it's well known that you always want to go where your customers are, and Salesforce was definitely kind of top on the list. So yeah, great flexibility, lots of knowledge, people that are very advanced and sophisticated in building workflows, so pretty easy to give them scores and see what they start doing with, so that way we can then take those ideas and package them. On the analytics side, Segment has been amazing. I'm so glad and thankful that we built an integration very early on with them. right at the time where the queue wasn't that large, and
That's
now
right.
it's completely backed. If you're trying to build an integration with Segment, it's pretty tricky, which is a testament to their success. So definitely, I'd say Salesforce, Segment. On the marketing automation side, I think Marketo is really solid. Again, like more flexibility than a HubSpot. And then it does a lot of the right things the right way. And then on the engagement side, I think a lot of the different tools are work, and it's really more a matter of preference, like really personal preference.
So how old is the company?
So the company is 2 years old.
Okay, great. And I think we use the product with customers. It's a great product, and you've kind of reached this point over the over a 2-year time frame. Where do you go from here? I mean, because the product is good. So there's a point where you say, okay, well, now it's what's next? What do we add? What's the next bell and whistle?
Well, thank you for that. The way we see it is that we've hit product success, so we've iterated a lot, and now we're at a point where every time we implement the product, we get great success, and we're showing a lot of incremental value created for our customers. Now it's about going to market success. So how do we actually, acquire more customers and start spreading the word, so that instead of having, a small set of very, very happy customers, we get a larger set of very happy customers. So that's really what's next for us.
So who's responsible for growth, and how do you think about growth at Madkudu? Is it create a bunch of content and drive people to the site? Is it go to conferences? Is it get a bunch of SDRs? What's that path for you guys? I mean, because now there's a billion SaaS companies, right? And
Yep.
So everybody's fighting over the same, VPs of marketing or VPs of sales or whatever's in those lists. How do you guys attack it?
Yeah, SaaS is crowded. Lead scoring is incredibly crowded. So the approach that we've taken so far and that we want to keep on using is really customer advocacy. Like we have very happy customers that are vocal about the successes they've had with Madkudu, and we want to double down on that. So it's really going to be pushing for more customers being invited to speak at events and helping them be able to promote some growth hacks that they're putting together, some experiments. So it's really going to be being hands-on with customers to make sure that they can be successful, so that they'll be talking about us further down the line. I think just trying to yell louder than some of the other companies in lead scoring that have raised 10, 20 times more VC money than us, it's just going to be hard because they can outmarket us, but they cannot out happy customer us. Like our customers are happier than theirs, and that's why we get a lot of customers from there. So we'll just keep on doubling down.
But that just comes down to efficacy. I mean, one of the things about lead scoring is it's extremely quantitative, isn't it?
It is, but I think there's also a big component, which is a lot of the historical predictive lead scoring vendors have been implementing lead scoring in just a way to displace the standard lead scoring. So if you look at the lead scoring from Marketo, which was probably to me is one of the original ones, it's about putting a score in the system and then driving some decision based off of it in the system. So it's just restricted to that small component, that system of record and system of engagement. So it basically creates this silo in the overall stack. I think a lot of the vendors today are still doing that. Where we see a big difference is actually educating customers to think about how do you actually use the lead score to really change the overall customer experience. So how do you change the website? How do you change the demo form? How do you change even your qualification process? Like, how do you make sure that if someone from IBM is signing up for your website, they don't get to talk to a junior SDR, but you push them directly to an AE?
So does that basically put you in a situation where you're now almost a general purpose analytics company? Like, what's the overlap there?
I think it's a good question. I think everything, like you could say, yes, it's general analytics from how we do things, but what really matters to us is what you use the analytics for. And again, we're all about how do we make your funnel respond to who the customer is. And I don't think, a lot of the analytics today are showing you what are the different milestones and how can you decompose that funnel, but it's still trying to optimize a static process by figuring out where you have the highest bottlenecks instead of trying to figure out a more organic funnel.
Okay, and then Madkudu works better the more input sources it has, right? So that's where segment comes in, or some of these other situations come in. If you can take additional signals and apply them to the model ultimately performs better. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. It's one of those things where ultimately, again, like the way we think about our models is trying to mimic what people naturally do. When you're looking at a lead, the main question you're going to have is, based on all the data points, how good of a fit is this is this lead for my business? And that's going to be going to the website and trying to figure out, what do these people sell? How can I have a value prop that works for them? It's trying to look at their social media accounts. So we're basically doing at scale what a rep would do if you only had one account to work.
Okay, so any best growth hacks? Anything you can think of that jumps out where you're like, wow, that's awesome?
One of the things I want to talk about that relates to growth hacking is I have some concerns around growth hacking. I love working with Guillaume Caban, who is at Segment, now at Drift, because he's built some amazing growth hacks that have been super successful, and I'm glad we were able to help on a lot of them. But I think the part that a lot of people are not seeing when they go to his presentations is the amount of thought that goes up front before designing the experiment.
That's right.
I think the main thing that's missing today in a lot of growth hacking is really thinking about what is the problem you're trying to solve and building hypotheses around that to be able to actually solve it. So there's not really one growth hack that works for every single company. I think it's really the process of thinking, how can I reduce unknown in my business, and what are the experiments I can put to reduce that unknown?
It's funny, you're speaking my language. I mean, as a growth marketing company, we deal with that a lot of times, and you talk to potential customers, and they say, well, just give us your top 10 growth hacks, and we'll get 10 times bigger. And I say, well, it doesn't really work that way. I mean, we have to work through the program of really understanding what business questions we need to answer. And then once we have the data that you probably don't have today, we can leverage that data to do things that will move the needle or generate what we call yield in your business.
Which is a tricky message in today's world of instant gratification, where people want to implement a tool and get results immediately. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily how business works, at least long term. So we have, and I'm sure you guys have also, a list of the top 10 kind of growth hacks that are going to work consistently, but you also know they're not necessarily optimal for the given customer, because finding the optimal path means you need to start by measuring, predicting impact, and then actually optimizing.
Well, and actually you mentioned something that's really important, which is the implementation of a tool. So you think about analytics, or you think about marketing automation, or you think about anything, and one of the big challenges is making it work right the first time. And once it's working, it's great. And so that could be implementing Segment so it works with all the tools, or it could be working with Kiss Metrics, or getting it working, or Customer IR getting it working. What's the challenge in getting Madkudu working right?
I think there's, from a technical standpoint, there's not that many. I think the big thing is that there's a lot of change management, and this is very typical, I think, with AI, where from a design standpoint, when you're building AI, you have to think about what is the emotional impact it's going to have on the end user. And for us, the end user is, eventually the salesperson. So when we're recommending a given touch point or a given action to a salesperson, we really have to figure out how do we make sure we build trust for that salesperson to actually take the action we're recommending. I think it's very similar to what we're seeing with self-driving cars. People only see the false negatives and the false positives, so every time the system is wrong, but they don't see all the incremental true positive. Like every time the AI is going to make a decision that a human would not have, and that's actually a true positive increment. So a lot of what we're doing is building processes to enable the reps and the entire sales organization to really see how the AI is actually helping them, have better coverage of their financial plan, and actually at the end of the day, helping them succeed. And that's probably the hardest part of implementing a system that has AI in it.
Well, I could definitely see that, particularly with salespeople. I mean, I have a hard enough time getting on an elevator without buttons. Right? It says, just go on the elevator B. It'll take you where you're supposed to go. And I think, is it really?
Right.
But it works.
It does, and it's just drastically going to change the way a lot of UX. I think we need to redefine UX based on AI, because it's just drastically different. And where lead scoring originally was maintained and handled by a marketing ops or sales ops person, they had all the knobs and they can go and tweak the score. And I think it's very fulfilling because you feel like you have control over it. And now moving into AI, which seems black box, it becomes much more of a trust kind of relationship with the system. And that means, we definitely have to rethink how we're, what the UX is of these products.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. That was Francis Burrow, the co-founder and chief revenue officer of Madkudu. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Appreciate it.
Successful growth strategies depend on good data. If you don't have the data you need or believe the data you have, we're here to help. Find out more at mammothgrowth.com.